Hello and welcome to the Robin Knits podcast. This is a video where we are going to be talking about knitting goals and intentions for this year. And if this is something you are interested in, something that excites you, I hope you hang around and let me give you company for a while. I am Rhoda and I live in a small town way outside the Greater Toronto area in Canada, and we moved here a couple of months ago, so I have been enjoying the quiet, the peacefulness, and it has also given me more reason for knitting because it is way colder here than Toronto was. I'm sorry if you hear planes go by. We have an airport really close and you may hear several planes going by. I do not know what their schedule is like, but clear sky seems to be a day when they usually fly more planes, and so you may hear more planes. I'm really sorry about that. But what I'm wearing today is the Shifty. It is a design by Andrea Mowry, and it is a very famous design, I'm sure. I came across this last year and I decided to knit one for myself. This was part of two knit alongs that I speak about in my last video, so I'm not going to talk about it again. The yarns I used for the sweater were part of a fade set of yarns. It's by a dyer called Yarn to You. I don't know if she dyes yarn anymore. It's been a while since I've seen anything on her Instagram page, but you might want to go check her out. This colorway was called the Autumn Fade, and the contrast, I used the entire Autumn Fade as the main color. The contrast color is Knit Picks Troll in an undyed colorway. The main color is in fingering weight and the undyed colorway is Port. Somehow it seemed to make the sweater work. I have made one big modification in terms of stitches. If you look at the actual pattern, the smaller, what do you call them, bumps? The smaller bumps, they were supposed to be 1 by 1, but I have stretched them out to be 1 by 3, and so you would find lesser white on these stripes, and that was a modification I made. Other than that, the pattern is wonderfully written, and you use just one color at a time but get a wonderful product. And so if you're afraid of ever knitting color work but you want something that is really colorful and looks sophisticated, this is a pattern you should try. When I did my 2024 year knitting wrap, I figured that almost 70% of the knitting I did was gift knitting in one way or the other. Out of 30 projects that I did, about 10 projects were for myself and the others were for others, so that's about 66.6% if we want to be really accurate. So that much of the knitting was gift knitting. And so one of my first intentions for this year is to go slow on gift knitting. While I do want to continue gift knitting, I want to be very intentional, maybe make it more special, and maybe even downsize on the projects that I'm making. Maybe not make entire sweaters or jumpers, but I could probably look at making scarves and gloves and mittens and hats, things like that. So that would be my first main goal for 2025. As much as I enjoyed gift knitting, I feel that multiple deadlines throughout the year have started to become a little stressful, and I also feel I'm letting someone down if I do not deliver the gift knit at the right time on the right day. And so I want to take that pressure off myself, a pressure that no one has put on me, but I want to take that off and be more intentional in my gift knits. And I'll talk about it in a little while when I come to what patterns I really want to make, about what I mean by really being intentional about the gift knits. My next goal is to knit out of what I have. I have several patterns. I have several pattern books. All of the patterns and all of the patterns in the books looked very interesting when I first acquired them, but somehow something newer, something shinier always came up and I moved on to those patterns. But I want to go back to my pattern library and knit from them as much as I can. Just find the same joy that I found when I first looked at the patterns and see what I can make work for me. Test knits is one thing that I do not want to slow down on, and that is my third goal for this year. I want to indulge in as many test knits as I can, enjoy them, and also make these as projects for myself. And if I feel it would be great for somebody I intend to gift knit for, I don't mind doing that. But I want to be very intentional about what test knits I apply for. I want to apply for test knits which I know I will make and wear. A couple of test knits that I made last year did not fit me really right, and I ended up not wearing them, and it wasn't really great. So I want to look at test knits that fit my body type and not just go by the designer's pictures, but be more practical and intentional about what I pick for myself. My fourth goal, unlike most goals you might have heard, is to actually try popular designers. As somebody who is new to knitting, I feel I have tried a good variety of designers, but there are some really popular ones whose designs I have never knit. Sari Nordland, for example, I have seen and heard about a lot of her designs, but I've never knit one for myself. So I want to make it a priority to pick some of those designers. And I have listed a few of them. I'll quickly look at my computer and read them off. Kadri, Expression Fiber Arts, My Favorite Things Knitwear, Isolda Teague, Anne Wenzel, Julie Hoover. These are few designers that are in my radar, and I definitely want to knit a few designs from them this year. You might not see them on my list of patterns that I put up, but some of them are blank and I would want to fill it in with these designers. My next goal is to try new yarn brands. Now I have a vast knitting yarn stash, and so I don't intend to buy yarn unless I'm very, again, intentional about it. If there is a particular yarn that I'm buying for a project that I'm going to knit within the week of the yarn arriving, and I have the time, the space, and needles and cords all free to do that, only then I would be ordering yarns. Now considering my yarn orders for this year are going to be on the lower side, I want to try and experience better yarns, and some of the brands that I've been looking at is Gepard Garn, Sonda Yarn. That's a yarn that I've been looking for a couple of years, but I haven't been able to purchase. I'm hoping this year would be a year that I would be able to try it. Lang yarns, like the cashmere ones, for example, Woolly Knit British DK. I've been very hesitant about buying from them because it was mostly fingering weight, but now that they've come out with the DK weight yarn, I am looking forward to trying their yarns as well. And my last goal for this year is to be open to expanding skills in my other hobbies as well. I wanted to learn a new hobby, try a new hobby. I want to learn a new skill, which is sewing. It never happened last year. And I also want to expand on other hobbies I had. I used to do watercoloring, very basic, but I want to build on it and see what I can do. I would like to make my own handmade Christmas cards or birthday cards, thank you cards. I like to do them by myself instead of purchasing them off a store. And so I want to look at how to expand my skills in those small places. I also want to go back to reading books, although the kind of books that I usually read are very unique. They're more philosophical and more documentary like, and so I would also have to do a deep dive on what kind of books I want to read this year, what titles are good, and if you can think of something, even if it's historical fiction is also okay. If you can think of some books that you could recommend, please feel free to put it down in the comments below. Keeping up with my first goal, I want to move on to a list of patterns that I would like to knit for myself. I have pulled out some yarn that I feel would go really well with these patterns, and I'll quickly grab them. Now, patterns that I would love to knit for myself. The first one is I want to pick a challenging pattern, and one of the patterns that has been so much talked about this last year was the Urus sweater. It is a sideways construction, and so it's going to be something absolutely new, something that's absolutely challenging, and I am looking forward to working that sweater. So this is the yarn that I have in stash and I picked for that sweater. I want to try and show the label. This is Knit Picks Whoopsland. It's an Aran weight yarn. This is what it is. It's an Aran weight yarn, and this is the colorway Pool Plunge. This has about 80% merino wool and 20% alpaca, and this is really soft, and it's Aran weight. I am assuming the Urus sweater is also Aran weight or worsted weight at the most, and I'm hoping this yarn could work for that. I'm hoping I don't have any gauge issues. I'm hoping I don't have to make modifications in terms of needle or yarn as well, because I really want to use this yarn for that sweater, and I'll let you know how it goes. I want to make a textured sweater, and for that the storm sweater has been on my mind for a very long time. I want to make it in this colorway. This is Capra DK by Knit Picks, and this is the colorway Holly Berry. This is a very special yarn. I've used it before for crochet though, and it felted because we accidentally dried the scarf that I had made, and so I couldn't wear the scarf anymore. But this is made of 85% fine merino wool and 15% cashmere, and I'm looking forward to make this sweater. I would probably want to cast it on towards fall, maybe in summer, so I could wear it in fall and wear it more towards the holiday season this year. I did find a big gap for what I could wear in the holiday season. This was my most worn Christmas sweater. It of course has wintry colors, and the wrists also have a nice deep red color, so it kind of worked, but I would like something more holiday specific, and I'm looking forward to making the storm sweater in that deep bright red color. And Holly Berry seems like a very appropriate Christmas yarn as well. I want to make a ribbed project. I have several yarns that I could use for this because I have a lot of fingering weight yarn in stash, and the project I want to make is the Linen Sweater by Crea Bea. I'm yet to find the correct yarn for that pattern, and so I did not pick the yarn. You will know it as I cast it on, as I try different yarns. You will know it when I talk about it in the podcast. You might have to wait for that. Also want to knit a dress this year, the Zoe zipper dress from the Santa's Gown book. I did not get the book downstairs with me, but I'll probably put a picture up here. But that's one of the sweaters again that has been on my radar. I want to probably pick a very economical yarn. I'm either looking at, again, Knit Picks or Drops, and I have to make a decision about this. I do not know which part of the year I want to cast this on, so I'll put a pin on it for now, but this is major project I would like to take up for this year. I also want to make a comfort wear. This is like something I could throw on top of summer clothes and just be more comfortable, make sure my shoulders are not really cold in summer evenings, and just use it as a comfort wear. Carry it around with me, use it if I want to, or it should be small and convenient enough to fold and put it into a bag if I don't want to either. And so I have picked the Traveler Shell for that for that specific purpose. And the yarn I'm going to be using is Pearl Soho's Linen Quill. This is a wool, linen and alpaca blend, and I am looking forward to making it, wearing it, and I've only heard good things about this yarn, so we'll see how it goes. I do think I would want to make another cardigan this year. I made one last year and I have been wearing it quite a bit, so I'm hoping I would be able to make another one. I want to make something that is a little more bulkier. The last one I made was the April cardigan, and it was using Galileo, Knit Picks Galileo, and I held it with alpaca cloud lace. And this year I want to make something that's a little more bulky, and I picked the Felix cardigan for that. I already have the pattern. I have made it for a friend, and I think I have enough bulky yarns. I do not have worsted weight yarns, but I have bulky yarns, and I could probably make that work for the Felix cardigan, so that is on my radar as well. I do want to make a stripe project, and the Farnham tee is something I've been looking at, especially because of how intricate the short rows are, how perfectly the lines match at the edge of the shoulder, and I can only imagine how much pain and how much math, how much calculation the designer has looked at to make sure that pattern works perfectly. Again, most people who have knit the Farnham tee always come back with really high praise for the pattern, and so that's something I want to try as well. And the yarns I picked for that are Fiberco Luma. This is a blend of cotton, linen, merino wool, and silk. I do not know the exact percentages, but these are the two colorways. This one is sap green and this one is ancient stone. I got both of these at a sale that the Knitting Loft had. They had a clearance sale, and I got both of these yarns at 40% off. However, I have limited amount of yarn. I have 4 skeins of the ancient stone and 3 skeins of sap green, so I want to make sure I make the pattern work for me. I might have to do a few modifications, nothing in the shoulder area because I don't want to disrupt that at all, but rest of the pattern I may have to do a few modifications to make sure I have enough yarn and I'm not playing yarn chicken. There is one color work project that is calling my name, and it is something I definitely want to do for the new year. This again, I want to make sure I do it towards fall. I make this pattern towards fall so I can wear it during Thanksgiving and from then on until winter, I guess. So this is a pattern called the Schneeflocken. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Well, I'm sure I'm not saying it right. And I want to use Knit Picks Twill in the fingering weight. These are the two colorways I have. This is the Horacha colorway and this is the Merlin colorway. This is a discontinued colorway. You do not find it on the website anymore, and I purchased this about 2 years ago. And again, I want to be very intentional about the yarn because I know I cannot go get a refill. It's definitely not going to be the same dye lot, but I do not even know if I'm going to get the same yarn. And so I have to be very intentional. Now this is not a regular wool. This is a superwash wool, and I know superwash yarn is not always recommended for color work projects, but this is not a project that we are going to be steeking. And I have used these exact same yarns in a color work project earlier this year for the Arigato tea. It seemed to do well. The yarn didn't unravel as long as I had long tail ends, and I wove them very well, very tightly, very accurately, and it didn't seem to have a problem. So I'm going to be using this again for the color work. I also want to make a hat and mitten pair, and the pattern I picked for this is Cute Knits. This is by the Petite Knitter, and these are the yarns I want to use for that. I'm sorry, we have fading daylight, and I'm trying to make sure we're able to use as much of the natural light as we can find. This is Knit Picks palette in the colorway Coriander Heather, and this is Knit Picks palette in the colorway Asphalt Heather. And I want to put this together to make that hat and mitten set. I have only one ball each of both of these colors. I don't know if we can make that work. Well, it's Knit Picks and it's palette. I'm sure they'll have the colorways, and I'm sure I can order more yarn, but I want to try and make these work. So I'll keep you updated about how it goes. The last project I wanted to mention is a couple project. Now the last year, I made Sam the Care sweater, and I made myself the Amoretta blouse, and we usually wore it together. Most of the time the colors matched. It wasn't an intentional couple sweater, but we just liked wearing it together, so we did. But I want to make an intentional couple sweater this year, and the pattern that I picked out as of now is the Glacial Jumper by the Petite Knitter again. This is from her book The Arctic Knits. And again, I forgot to bring the book down, but I'll put the picture over here. And it is a wonderful sweater. Most of our sweaters can be worn both men and women can wear it. So I am just hoping I can make the pattern work for both our body types. And thankfully Sam is around all the time, so I can just try the sweater on him as I go, and it shouldn't be a problem. With that, that I think is a perfect segue into gift knitting. So the first sweater I wanted to mention was the one I'm making for Sam. That would be the Glacial sweater. I do not have yarns kept for this, by the way. I will have to look for yarns and order them. And again, maybe just for these sweaters, because both of us are going to wear them, I want to get good quality yarns, and Sunday morning DK would be a good option, but let's see. I also want to knit something for my mom, dad, and sister this year. For my dad, I want to just knit him the Bear Paw socks. They live back home in India, and it's not really cold for them all year around. It is really cold in December and January, but the rest of the year is pretty warm. But in December and Jan, it gets so cold that it's uncomfortably cold. We do not have heating indoors back home. It's just unusual to have heating. There are fewer homes that may have air conditioning, but heating is just unheard of. And so I want to just make sure I'm knitting something that they could use, even if it's for that couple of months, but it's not something so large that it's going to hang out in the closet and just not used for the rest of the year at all. And so the Bear Paw socks seem like a good option for him. I'm going to knit this in Knit Picks. They're sock yarns. I forgot what they are called, but I'll put the name over here. I'm going to knit it in blue. Blue is kind of his favorite color, followed by green, so I'll see which of those colors work really well. And I'll knit the socks for him. For my mom, I want to make a shawl. I haven't really thought of what shawl I want to make her, but I want to make her something thin, something with an open gauge, something that she can use. It can be rough use and she does not have to baby it. And I have to look for a pattern, either something that is a lace pattern or something that's knit on such a large gauge that it would feel very light and airy, and she could wear it wherever she goes. For my sister, she has already asked me to make the arigato tee because she saw it last year when I made it for a friend and she loved it. So I'm going to make it the exact same way with the little color work at the bottom. I want to try my own color work, but I'm just going to use the number of repeats that the pattern already has and try and make it work. The reason I want to make it my own color work is I want to put maple leaves on it. I'm sure I can find it off the internet. Maybe I'll just use one of those, but I want to do maple leaves on it so she knows it's from Canada. And the rest of the gift knitting are intentional. I have looked at everyone's birthdays and I've picked just a few people I'm going to be knitting for this year, and that is because they are going to be having milestone birthdays. There is a baby who's going to be a year old, so I'm knitting something for him. The pattern I picked for him is the Molly sweater, I'll probably knit an 18-month size and see how that goes. There is someone who's turning 40, and for that person, I want to knit a Lulu slipover. She is very trendy. She loves dressing up, and she's very fashion inspirational. At least when I look at her, I find it very inspiring to see how she's put her clothes together, and I know the Lulu slipover would be something that she would really enjoy. There is someone who's turning 50, and oh wait, for the Lulu slipover, this is the yarn I'm going to be using. This is Knit Picks again. This is Woodland Tweed in the colorway Spotted Owl Heather. This is very similar to the Whoopsland Tweed. It has 80% merino wool, 15% baby alpaca, and 5% viscose, which I assume are the tweed bits in the yarn. Then there's someone turning 50, and this person in the past has expressed how she has been looking for long cardigans, something that is as long as her calf, or at least goes to her knee, somewhere in between the knee and the calf, and she has not found cardigans like that. I had enough yarn to make her one, and so I've decided to make the no frills cardigan. It's simple, it could be mindless. I would have to start it now so I can finish it by the time it's her birthday. It's fast approaching, and this is the yarn I'm going to be making the cardigan out of for her. This is Knit Picks Muse in the colorway Endurance Speckle. This is her fingering weight yarn, but the pattern calls for DK weight yarn. It's 75% superwash merino wool and 25% nylon. Now, I think I will be holding this with Knit Picks Alpaca Cloud. I'm not very sure, but I want to see if I can work this out in a gauge that's airy, and that's going to be even better, because if she can wear a long cardigan which is airy and nice, she can wear it all through the year. And I find the colorway also lends itself really well for it to be either a spring colorway, an autumn colorway, or even a summer colorway. So she can use it for most of the year. Well, it could even be a winter colorway. And so if I can make this yarn work for the entire cardigan, it would be the best thing ever. And again, I'll let you know as I make it. So many decisions to be made. There's someone who's turning 60. And for that person, I am going to be making something in the Lauder series. I am looking more at the vest, the Lauder vest. This is a pattern by Rebecca Clough, the Caribbean Knitting Podcast. For all of the patterns, I'm just gonna put the names and the pictures and the designer names, because I realize I've been forgetting to tell the designers' names. So I want to make something from those series for this person. I'm not very sure. As of now, I'm leaning towards the vest, but I am also okay with making a sweater. This person is very loved and I want him to have the best, so I'm thinking about it. So this is the yarn that I'm thinking of for using for that gift. This is High Desert Sport Knit Picks again, and this is in the colorway Stargazing. It says sport weight. The pattern, I don't know if it uses sport weight or the DK weight. Again, I'll have to swatch for it and see. It's also a complete cable pattern, and so I need to be very intentional. Make sure I swatch and not pull the ends of the swatch to make it work, but just lay it flat, let it dry, and see if it works. I don't want to make an entire cable project and then have it go waste. Then there's somebody who's turning 70, and for this person I want to make again a hat and mittens set. I am not sure this person would appreciate something of a large knit, so I probably just stick to a hat and mitten. The Jason's cashmere hat is the best hat pattern that I've always knit, and it has worked really well. It's also been very well appreciated, well received, and so I'll probably go back to making the Jason's hat for this person. And for the mittens, I could probably do the Cloudberry mitten, and I intend to use Knit Picks Twill, although it's not in the fingering weight, it is in the worsted weight. And I have some yarn in stash, but I couldn't find it today, so I'll probably be using that yarn. Those are all of the patterns I'm looking at making this year. I do realize a lot of plans could change. I have 10 patterns kept aside for myself, and I have another 10 patterns as gift knits, so that's 20 big knits already. And in between, if I could make any small accessory knit or test knits would come up for sure, I'll be happy to do them and enjoy them as well. I'm also looking for a scrappy knit. I have not decided what I'm going to be making, but I intend to make one scrappy knit, make sure I'm using up all of the yarn I have, and I don't want to make a knit blanket or something like that, but something that I could wear, maybe, or even an accessory, something like a bag. But again, this is a pattern that I really need to look for. I don't mind it being a crochet pattern or a knit pattern. Again, if you have suggestions for scrappy patterns, please let me know. With that, it's a wrap of all the patterns I want to make this year. I hope you stick around and see if these plans come to fruition, if any yarns have been swapped, if there are better yarn choices made, and if I'm making swatches for all of the projects. And if you have any ideas, if you have anything on your list that you are knitting, again, please feel free to comment and let me know. I hope you are having a good knitting time, and I'm hoping you have had a good start to this month. Happy knitting, everyone.